What if we could use 3D printing to assemble living tissue? Tsinghua University was one of the first in the world to explore this idea. What happens when a tissue or organ in your body stops working properly? Let's be real, your options today are still pretty limited. You either wait for a human donor organ or, in some cases, rely on animal transplants. But what if we could create a new one instead? Imagine this. If your heart valve fails or your cartilage wears down, instead of waiting, you receive a custom-made replacement built from your own cells. It sounds like science fiction, but thanks to advances in stem cells, tissue engineering, and biofabrication, that future may be nearer than we think. To understand how we got here, let's rewind. Humans have been growing and manipulating cells outside the body for over a century. For decades, petri dish cell cultures have been essential for studying how life works. Then, in 2006, a major breakthrough changed everything. Japanese scientist Shinya Yamanaka discovered induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPS cells. First in mice, then in human cells a year later. These cells are incredible. Take an ordinary adult cell from your skin or blood, add a few molecules, and it becomes a stem cell, capable of turning into almost any cell types in the body. This discovery earned him a Nobel Prize and completely reshaped the field. But even before that, in 2003, engineers were already thinking ahead. They proposed a bold idea, using 3D printing to create living, biologically active tissue. At that time, iPS cells didn't even exist yet. They had no way to get versatile stem cells easily, which makes the idea even more ambitious. Among the pioneers were researchers from the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Tsinghua University. They developed their own bioprinting technology called cell assembly, marking the beginning of cell printing research in China. Meanwhile, another field was emerging: organoids. These are miniature, three-dimensional structures grown from stem cells that mimic real organs, such as mini kidneys or mini livers. This area took off after the discovery of iPS cells and has rapidly advanced since around 2009. Here is a key point. Both 3D bioprinting and organoids are trying to achieve the same goal: creating human tissues and organs in vitro. One is driven mainly by engineers, the other by biologists. Different paths, same destination. And eventually, those paths begin to merge. We are now witnessing a major shift from flat 2D cell cultures to complex 3D living systems. So how do we actually build these tissues? It's far more complex than pressing print on a regular 3D printer. We need to mimic how the native tissue works. First, we need the right building blocks, cells. Thanks to iPS cells, we can generate patient-specific cells, reducing the risk of rejection. Next, we need a scaffold to hold the cells together, something that mimics the natural environment inside our body, called extracellular matrix. This is often a hydrogel, which provides a supportive, water-rich environment where cells can grow, move, and communicate, just like they do in your bodies. Next, we need a way to put everything together precisely. That's where 3D bioprinting comes in. They work like traditional 3D printers, but instead of plastic, they use bio-ink, a mix of cells, biomaterials, and other molecules. Typically, the printer deposits bio-ink layer by layer, following a detailed design based on real human organs. Think MRI or CT scans. While this method is excellent for building large structures, it still struggles to recreate the fine microenvironment that hosts cells to function properly. This microenvironment, things like structure, mechanical stiffness, and biochemical signals, plays a critical role in how cells grow, differentiate, and function together. In our research at Tsinghua University, we focus on combining large-scale structural fabrication with cellular microenvironment engineering. In a recent study, we developed a new printing strategy that creates cell-scale anisotropic features in printed hydrogel filaments. Using this method, we successfully engineered functional skeletal muscles with exceptionally long myotubes, up to millimeters in length. This really demonstrates the importance of a suitable microenvironment. But even if we place cells perfectly, will they behave exactly as we expect? Probably not entirely. That's the classic engineer's way of thinking. We assume that's all it takes, but cells are living organisms, and their behavior is highly complex. We also need to lean on developmental biology. That's the biologist's approach we talked about earlier. The only way to make the best possible tissues and organs is to bring all the knowledge together, merging engineering's controlled assembly with biology's natural self-assembly. This field is full of ambition, challenges, and opportunities. It does not belong to one discipline. It requires collaboration across engineering, biology, medicine, and materials science. That isn't some distant future. Tissue and organ biofabrication isn't coming. It's already here, reshaping medicine one cell, one layer, one breakthrough at a time.